Hey everybody, I'm Sean Palmer, and that's Seth Kamens. I got it right the first time. Yes!
Yay, must be that
I'm
13
Sean.
years of Syracuse education. Good job.
Seth Kamens, Sean Palmer, Seth and Sean Sports Radio. We will have a new opening next week. Thanks again to Randy Zelia, who does a fantastic job here at Back Sports Page. And you can find us all on backsportspage.com. You can find me right now because Seth just logged off. I am at SU Lawyer 2001. It's right on the bottom over there. Seth, who is over there, I don't know where he went, but he is at Seth Kamens, S Kamens on Twitter. He's still over there. He's back. Yeah. He's back. He's at S Kamens, and we're at Seth and Sean on Twitter, and you can find us Seth and Sean Sports Radio on Facebook every single week. We are here on StreamYard, making bad predictions even look worse.
No, does it better.
It really doesn't. We're gonna hit off the NCAA preview show. First of all, congratulations. Your Terps made the tournament. Well done.
You got so freaking lucky.
You say that every year, and every year when you say that, we wind up in the Sweet 16. So I'm okay with, or even the Final Four. So I'm okay with that. You can continually call us lucky. Everybody can continually call us lucky until we go out in the first round, which I don't.
Do you think you deserve to be there?
Yes, deserve. Yes, 100%. Because
how many quad one wins did you have?
I think we had 2. Now here's the difference: if we don't go, who goes instead of us? Louisville?
No, I would rather have the non-Power 5.
Right, but that's not going to happen. So
yeah, but you asked me what I want, what my expectation would be.
But your response is, did you deserve to go? We deserve to go over.
I would rather see a 24-1 Belmont team than a number 9 team in the ACC with 2 legitimate wins.
Okay, but hold on. Legitimate wins?
2 quad one wins. 2 quad one wins.
And how many did Belmont have?
How many did Belmont have the chance to have?
Okay, but that's poor scheduling too.
Who the heck is gonna schedule a team that goes 25-5 every year and you get no credit for beating them? You asked me what my preference would have been. My preference would have been, now look, if you said that knocked out UCLA and put you in the first 4 against Michigan State, fine. No real argument. I don't.
Your question was, did we deserve to be there? You didn't say, did we deserve to be there over X, Y? So yes, we deserve to be there. We are one of the top 64 teams in the NCAA.
That's meaningless. That's meaningless.
Well,
20 at-large, 15 at-large teams that are not in the best 64. That doesn't mean anything.
Agreed. I believe we deserve to be there. I think we will show up.
I believe you will. But that's not the question. We've had this argument going back years. Yeah. The first 4. The first 4 is incredibly stupid.
Yes.
But is it fun? Does it occasionally lead to things? Yeah. That doesn't justify its existence.
No, its existence, as we have both identified, is a moneymaker, right?
Yes.
100%.
And this year it won't be a moneymaker, but man, there'll be ratings for that Michigan State UCLA game.
Well, but that's a moneymaker to them. That's what the money is coming.
There's no in person.
No. And truth be told, I would love to go there are in-person games. I think the first 4 actually does have people. I think it's like 1,500 or 2,000 get to go. I would love to go to Henkel Fieldhouse and watch Syracuse play San Diego State.
Is that where they're playing? Are they playing at Henkel?
9:40 on Friday night. Because of course it's San Diego State, so we have to stay up till midnight to watch the end of the game.
Yeah, I have a 7:00 game on a Saturday night. I'm sure my wife will be ecstatic.
Don't you have a hall pass for this? I mean, anything Maryland?
No, I would have had a hall pass if it was a Thursday or even a Friday night. Saturday is going to be a problem. I mean, I'll find a way to watch it because, well, come on now. I'll let her go out with whoever she wants. I don't care.
Should I just call you to give you updates? Because I'll be watching the game.
Go after yourself.
And this is where we are. And
this is where we are.
This is where we are. Okay, so there were no glaring omissions to me.
No.
Right? I mean, Belmont is Belmont.
It's not a glaring omission.
Okay.
It would have been my preference. I didn't say it's a glaring omission.
And
then you need to make the NIT. So, I mean, I get it.
And if there are two, if there aren't Georgetown winning and Oregon State winning, Belmont may have made it, right? Because those are two. Georgetown did not deserve to be there. Other than
look at the last four out. Because remember, this year it's a little different.
Right.
Because there may be people who Virginia's having issues, Kansas is having issues, or based on COVID, they will not be able to play. So you have to have four other teams that are ready to go.
Sure. And one of them is Louisville.
Yes, I think they were considered the first one out.
Yeah, Louisville's got an interesting rep going into this, and those that do not follow the ACC probably don't understand. So Louisville had their best player injured in mid-January, and somehow during the
was that Purvis Ellison?
You're right.
Was it Ncaa, Peyton Silva?
But here's the thing: during the week that their best player was injured, supposedly they had a COVID scare. But once he got healthy, they no longer had a COVID scare. So it kind of rubs you the wrong way, right? 3 days later, all of a sudden, they don't have a COVID scare anymore. And you kind of say, yeah, well, right, exactly. There's something fishy going on. And if Rick Pitino was still there, oh, wait, he's in the tournament too. If he's
there is an irony to Kentucky and Louisville being out and Iona being in.
But to be fair,
Iona,
and the irony is that Rick Pitino is a hell of a coach. I mean, nobody's ever denied that he's a great coach. He is a Hall of Fame coach. All right, so Georgetown. Let's go through this. So let's hit up the West first. Gonzaga against anybody. Can we just say Gonzaga is going to win that game? Okay. Oklahoma, Missouri, 8-9 game. I have Oklahoma.
I have Oklahoma too. No, it's a filler game for Gonzaga, so I'm not too concerned.
Creighton, UC Santa Barbara. This is the 5-12. I have Santa Barbara over Creighton. I saw Creighton play against Georgetown, and they were
terrible.
Awful.
I also think Creighton was reeling a little bit from the whole issue with Coach McDermott. I think they'll be better. UCSB hasn't played anyone outside of their conference this year. I'll go with Creighton.
Okay, Virginia over Ohio. If Virginia plays, Virginia's good. Like Virginia is.
Yeah, but Virginia is in COVID protocol. Ohio's got an interesting story with their guard who scored like 20 points in his high school career and is now an All-American. I kind of like Ohio.
So the thing that wins in tournaments to me is always defense. Virginia has the best defense.
This is not a typical Virginia defensive team.
Agreed. Trust me, I've watched them. Like this is
not your normal Virginia DeAndre Hunter guarding 11 positions team. So no. I'm not sure if you can go with that.
So are you picking Ohio over Virginia?
I am. I think that's my biggest upset of the first round.
USC over Wichita and Drake. I have USC. I have no confidence in this pick whatsoever.
I have USC. I actually think USC is the best team in the Pac-10. Wow,
Kansas over Eastern Washington because they're Kansas and because I know nothing and I don't know anything about Eastern Washington. I have Oregon over VCU. Oregon losing the Pac-10 championship, still going 12-6. Yep. I still got Oregon.
Yeah, VCU was it's a 50-50 for me. The only thing I know about Eastern Washington, I think that's where Colin Cowherd went. That's about all I got. Iowa over Grand. Yeah, Iowa over Grand Canyon. I mean,
you know what? I'd like to see Grand Canyon win this game because Grand Canyon's. It's an interesting
story.
Yeah, just in general, but I don't see it. I have Iowa as well. Let's flow back up. I have Iowa over Oregon.
Yep.
I have USC over Kansas.
So do I, but I kind of like this whole. I have no confidence in the USC Wichita pick, but I have confidence with USC over Wisconsin, over Kansas. I have no confidence in Kansas this year.
If you had them over Kansas, over Wisconsin, that would be even a better pick.
Well, that would be a very interesting final. I have Creighton over Ohio.
And I have Virginia over Santa Barbara. So we're definitely different on this side of the bracket. But then
up to a certain point,
right, and then I have Gonzaga going all the way. So it does.
Yeah, I have Gonzaga over USC in the final,
and I have Gonzaga over Iowa. So we're
going out on a limb.
Yeah, exactly. Both of us. Okay, let's go on to the East. Michigan over whoever they play in the first round.
Yep.
I have St. Bonaventure over LSU. I know going out on a real limb here is 9 over 8.
I agree.
I have Georgetown over Colorado. And again, Georgetown played really, really well. And their defense played really, really well. Now, they did run into a Creighton team, like you said, that was reeling from Doug McDermott and what he said. And we'll get to that following our picks. But the fact is, Georgetown's playing very good basketball. Yeah. And this is the time to play.
And I have other than USC, I don't have a great deal of. I watched Colorado in the title game against Oregon State. McKinley Wright's a nice player. I think it's a 50-50. I'll go with the 12-5. I'll go with Georgetown.
Now, let's switch gears for a second. Patrick Ewing saved his job, right?
I don't think he was in as big danger as you thought he was. I mean, This is a team that's had 3 coaches before Ewing in like 50 years. And I don't think they were rushing to kick out their biggest alumni. I actually hadn't heard any inkling that he was going to be fired, unlike the Big Ten, which is like a massacre right now. I think 3 coaches are gone in like 3 days.
Yeah, the issue with Ewing is the transfer market and how many people had transferred out of that program.
Yeah, Mac McClung, who ended up at Texas Tech, is for one.
Exactly. So it's more along the lines of not that the team wasn't doing well, it's that people just didn't want to play for him. So if you can't get the recruits and you're going 12-12, well, you got some explaining to do.
Well, let's see where they go here. If they go to the Sweet 16, then he's probably looking at a new contract. But
right, and like I said,
he's out in one. I still think his job is safe for next year, and then we see where it goes from there.
I would agree with that. Now I have Florida State over UNC Greensboro.
As do I.
I have the winner of MSU, Michigan State, UCLA over BYU.
As do I. It will be Michigan State.
I got Texas over Abilene Christian, although I'd love to see Abilene win this game. It's not going to happen.
What is it with you in these like little Catholic schools from the Southwest?
Because
Abilene Christian, Grand Canyon.
Look, if you're going to play in Hinkey Fieldhouse, let's go Hoosiers. I mean, seriously, let's see the small town team make it all the way in Indiana. Hoosiers was on again today. It'll be on every day through the rest of the NCAA tournament.
Except the problem is the team at Hickory is better than the University of Indiana team. Hence why Archie Miller doesn't have a job right now.
Correct. I have Maryland over UConn just because a nod to you, my friend. I am shocked you're not wearing a Maryland shirt today.
I just got back from the gym, so I just threw on a t-shirt.
My
Maryland hat is in my car. So.
Things I have never thought I'd hear Seth came and say.
Well, we're not even telling. Let's keep it in perspective.
And then Alabama over Iona.
Over the Fighting Patinos.
And again, I'd love to see Patino pull it off. I would.
What would I?
Yeah. So I have Alabama over Michigan. Over Maryland. You guys are good, but you're not great. And you've said this yourself.
I mean, look, this is what I've said all along. I thought we would win it feels like a Purdue-esque kind of team where we're going to win our first round game. And we will give Alabama a pretty good fight, but we will lose 62-56, 64-58 kind of game in the second round. And I think that's going to be the end of Mark Turgeon in Maryland. Well,
that was going to be my next question. How far does Turgeon have to go to keep his job?
I don't think it'll matter. I think, look, assuming he doesn't do something ridiculous and go to the Final 8 or Final 4, he's got 2 years left on his contract. The reality is, and you'll understand this because Syracuse is literally the private university version of Maryland. We've been to one Sweet 16 in 10 years. Now, again, last year was an anomaly. We probably were a Sweet 16. We were very, very good last year. The year before, we were a fluky basket at the buzzer from going. But Maryland, we consider ourselves a top 20 school, and to be a one Sweet 16 in 10 years and no Final Eights and no Final Fours doesn't really work. He's got 2 years left in his contract, and if it's not going to be this year, again, he's been looking elsewhere. Like supposedly Wichita State until they re-sign their interim coach was a potential because he's from Kansas. I think it's just run its course. And I like Turgeon. I actually like him more than most Maryland alum, but at a certain point, it just kind of hits its peak, and it's just time. So that's gut is he's done.
I mean, outside of Syracuse, everybody hits their peak. I mean, because we're just going to continue going down the old road until it no longer hits, and you know what? That's okay.
Yep,
all right, so let's move on here. So Texas over the winner of Michigan State, UCLA.
Yep.
I have Georgetown over Florida State in a game that I really don't care because I got Michigan winning the next round. So I'll just play.
I have Florida State over Georgetown.
Okay, and then I have Michigan over St. Bonaventure because I think Michigan's the best one in this bracket by far. Not even close. I have Michigan over Georgetown.
Here's the problem I have here, and this is the single biggest issue of the tournament. We have no idea if Livers is going to be playing. If Livers is not playing, I think they go out to Florida State in 16. If Livers is playing, I think they're going to the 4. And I don't know if he's playing or not. Let me just actually look it up to see if we have any.
And you're looking 2 to 3 weeks down. 2 weeks down the road at this point.
I mean, but we have he hurt his foot. I'm just looking to see if there's anything on the timeline of his injury and potential return. Let's see what we got here. He has a stress fracture in his foot.
Stress fractures take time. I mean, you're looking probably 4 to 6 weeks on that.
Then I'm going to take Florida State.
Okay. And obviously, we both reserve the right to change these over the course of time until the brackets
start. Next 48 hours.
Yeah. Next 48 hours. Okay. So, given that, I am going to switch right now to Texas over Michigan. So, I will take Texas over Michigan to go to the Final Four.
Okay. And I'm actually in a weird year. I'm having the Fighting Hamiltons. I like using these coaches' last names as the Fighting Patinos, the Fighting Hamiltons. Leonard Hamilton may be the best coach never to make a Final Four. And think about it. There's not too many that are thought of more highly in the profession that have not made it. And this is it's not a great Florida State team, but it's a good one. And Texas just scares me on their inconsistency, although they were very good in the tournament. But have no fear, I do. Sorry.
So Leonard Hamilton, right? Leonard Hamilton, to me, is the Don Sutton of NCAA coaches.
Eddie Sutton or Don Sutton?
Don Sutton. He is a compiler. He is never had great teams. He has never recruited great players. He has consistently won his 18 games per year. I mean, he's like you said, never been to a Final Four. He's won 20 games.
Hold on here.
Am I missing?
At Florida State,
yeah,
we're going to excuse the first 3 years. Okay, we'll excuse 2002 through 2005. Going forward, 20 and 10, 22 and 13, 19 and 15, 25 and 10, 22 and 10, 23 and 11, 25 and 10, 18 and 16, 22 and 14, 17 and 16, 20 and 14, 26 and 9, 23 and 12, 29 and 8, 26 and 5, 16 and 6.
29 and 8?
2 years ago. That was when they
played 37 games.
Because they went to I believe they went to the final 8 or the final 16. They beat Gonzaga. Okay, Gonzaga beat them in the Sweet 16 that year.
That's a lot of games.
Yeah, well, they play, but a compiler to me is 18 and 14 every year. 22 and 12 is not a compiler. 22.
Yeah, that's about what he's averaging. 22 and 12. You're right. He's averaging 21 seasons. So, okay, maybe a little bit better than that. Okay. Fair.
Well, I guess, but let's take a step back for 2 seconds. Is there a better coach in the country that's never been to the Final Four? Maybe Scott Drew?
John Beeline's been to a Final Four, yes?
West Virginia beat Duke.
Okay, I'm asking. That's why
Kentucky. Yeah. No, he's been there. We went there with Michigan to the finals when they lost to they played you guys in the semifinals, for God's sakes.
I forgot he was the coach that year. Relax.
Whoa.
Relax. All right, let me go through this. Is there anybody else that has not been to a Final Four? No, you're probably right. I mean, Rick Barnes been to a Final Four?
Tennessee went 2 years ago. They lost to Virginia in the semis.
Okay. Shaka Smart's been to one.
But Shaka Smart's hasn't done as much.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll grant you that. Again, remember, 4 teams go to a Final Four every year. So it's kind of like being in the NFL Hall of Fame. You got to induct 4 people every year. So there's obviously some second tiers that get in. So, okay. Moving on to the Midwest. Illinois over Drexel.
Yep.
I have Loyola of Chicago and Sister Mary of the Poor over Georgia Tech.
101 years old. She's going. I'll tell you, I'm going to go Loyola, but man, that Georgia Tech team was fun to watch in the ACC final. I didn't realize that. Are they that good, or are they just going a good run?
So their guy in the middle, Moses, I can't remember.
Right. Moses, right.
He's a freshman, and he is.
Is he really?
Ooh. He is a beast. He was I think he's a freshman. He wasn't even recruited.
Explain how Josh Pastner got him.
Right. So Moses Wright is I'm almost sure he's a freshman. Hold on.
No, he's not a freshman.
Oh, he's a junior, right? But he wasn't recruited. Sorry, junior. That was he was a no-star recruit.
He was actually, I believe, he's actually a senior because he played in 8-7. This is his 4th year, so he's either a 4th-year junior or he's a senior.
Yeah, so he averaged 4.3 points and 4.9 rebounds in his freshman year. So obviously not one of those guys that you really look at and say, yes, he's going to develop into a stud. 4.3. So anyway, you're right. Moses Wright is a huge beast in the middle.
And that Jose Alvarado guy, he was fun to watch.
He looks he reminds me of Vasquez. not because of his Latino heritage. I mean, there could be 1,000 different guys that he reminds me of, like you said, a Patrick Beverly type player, right? Gotcha. He's just going to get in your face and deal with you. And I don't care who you are. I'm just going to play up. And he did that against Syracuse too. We did well when he fouled out. Leave it at that. He is one of those guys that
is one of the better 8-9, but one of the better matchups of the first round.
Yeah. Okay. So I have Tennessee over Oregon State.
Yes.
Even though Oregon State won a Pac-12 championship, as you said, Pac-12 not the greatest. Oklahoma State over Liberty.
Yep.
The 4-13. I will lead with Syracuse over San Diego State in my homeboy.
I will give you your same credit that you're giving mine. I'm a little bit more. I'm pretty iffy on it, but I'll run with Cuse because playing Cuse is just difficult in the tournament.
Agreed. I have West Virginia over Morehead State, although I will be rooting very hard for Morehead State.
Oh yes, you will.
Yes, I will. I have Clemson over Rutgers.
No, Rutgers hasn't been there in 30 years. I'm going with the Big Red.
Are you?
Cornell, but yeah.
Are you?
Rutgers plays good defense. They're a tough team. They'll be fine.
They are. And I have Houston over Cleveland State.
Yep.
Let's flip it back over. I have Clemson over Houston. I know you don't.
Well, I don't have Clemson there. I have Houston over Rutgers.
Okay. I have West Virginia over Syracuse. You did convince me.
You couldn't do it, could you? You couldn't do it.
You convinced me of this yesterday that this was a bad move. And the more and more I researched West Virginia, this is a nightmare matchup for us. Absolutely not. We don't have the ball handling for this defense. So I'll pick West Virginia and Bobby Huggins. I have Oklahoma State over Tennessee.
Yep.
And I have Illinois over Loyola of Chicago. Then I have my upset of Oklahoma State over Illinois.
So do I. That is the game of the Sweet 16.
And I have West Virginia over Clemson.
West Virginia over Houston.
And then I have Oklahoma State over West Virginia.
Damn. That annoyed
Damn it. I thought I finally had something here. I was like, I'm taking a 4 seed.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the South. Baylor over Hartford.
Yeah, although I will be rooting based on my business partner going to Hartford. They've never been to the tournament before.
They are the home of Jeff Bagwell, though, and Vin Baker.
And Michael Youth. And Kevin Dineen.
Kevin Dineen? I forgot Kevin Dineen. I got North Carolina.
Hockey knowledge.
I got North Carolina over Wisconsin. I'm sure Mark told you all about Kevin Dineen. You didn't know that.
You think Mark knows about hockey?
I want to know how you found out about Kevin Dineen.
Because I know enough about hockey to be dangerous. Why wouldn't I know that? All right, I'm going Wisconsin over North Carolina in an absolute pick'em game. There's no way to pick it.
I got I don't Winthrop. I have Villanova over Winthrop, although
I have Winthrop over Villanova. Villanova is not a great Villanova team, and without their point guard, and Winthrop is very good.
I got North Texas over Purdue because, again, just because they're Purdue.
I got Purdue over North Texas.
Just because they're Purdue. Because Purdue can't win more than one game, so I might as well knock them out in the first round.
They went to the Final 8 against Virginia, but for the most part, they win a game and they're done, so I understand.
I have Utah State over Texas Tech.
Okay, I do not.
Okay, I have Arkansas over Colgate.
I do.
I got Virginia Tech over Florida.
I do.
I have Ohio State over Oral Roberts.
I do. I actually find this bracket a little bit frustrating because I don't think Baylor is a Final Four team, but there's nobody there to beat them.
So I got Tech over Ohio State.
Okay. I actually have Ohio State over Tech, but I completely buy it. Go ahead. I have Baylor over Winthrop. And then I have Baylor over
Wait. We skipped a bunch of games here.
Well, you skipped because you went Texas. Okay, fine. I have Winthrop over Purdue. That's my Sweet 16 jump.
No, I said I have Virginia Tech over Ohio State. Now we got Arkansas and Utah State.
I have Texas. No, you have Utah State. I'm sorry. I have Texas Tech. So I have Texas Tech over Arkansas.
Okay, and I have Utah State over Arkansas. So I have an 11 seed going to the Sweet 16. I have North Texas going to the Sweet 16 as well. So an 11 and a 13.
Okay, I have a 12 and a 6. So I have Winthrop going.
And then I have Baylor over North Carolina. And this is what you said, right? Neither one of us had. Would you be surprised if Baylor went out here to Wisconsin or to North Carolina?
No.
Right.
I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. Baylor hasn't been the same team since the beginning since they came back from COVID. Baylor, I do have Baylor over Winthrop, and I have Baylor over Ohio State in the final.
And I have Baylor over Virginia Tech. So I have a 10 and 11 in
Virginia Tech. Is Virginia Tech that good?
Virginia Tech is very good. They are just good. And I have not seen enough about Ohio State to say that they are better. Look, there's one thing to be said Ohio State's played 29 games, which is impressive when you started as late as you did. And that's a lot of games. But Tech has played very well. So I'll look, this tournament, you could throw it up in a hat and hope to come down with 4 teams. I would absolutely love to see 4 double-digit seeds in the Final Four. Like, that would be great.
I really want to see Zaga win this. Look, they've been on the precipice for 15 years, and I think they will win it. But, we've talked over the years that, there are years where there could be 10 or 15 teams that can win it. I don't think there are this year. I think there are 4 or 5. And ironically, in my Final Four, I only think one of them probably can win. But our Final Four is pretty much the same thing, except
I have 3 Big 12 teams, and
I have two, but I have two. I have Baylor and Oklahoma State. I have Oklahoma State over Baylor, and I have Gonzaga over Florida State, and I have Gonzaga over Oklahoma State in the final.
And I have Baylor over Gonzaga in the final. And you're right, they haven't been the same, but that doesn't mean they can't come back after a week off.
Yeah, of course. Perfectly fair.
And you're absolutely right that Gonzaga is the best team in this bracket. No doubt. And you and I have discussed this in the fact that the best team doesn't always win.
No.
And it actually, most of the time, the best team does not win. Because if that was the case, then you just have number 1 seeds every single.
So I mean, Gonzaga was the best team in the tournament. Was it 2 or 3 years ago against Carolina? They got a little bit unlucky at the end. Most of the time, yeah. But I just get the feeling in a year where it is really, really hard. I mean, think about it. Duke. It's a strange year because you always have these perennial teams. Duke out, Kentucky out, Louisville out, Michigan State and UCLA barely in, Indiana out. Not that Indiana is really at the same level. North Carolina is a 9 or an 8. They're irrelevant for the most part.
Yeah.
It is the only 3. Really, I think Michigan's the second best team in the country. If Livers doesn't play, I don't think they can win.
Okay.
So that's just because I think he's their second best player behind Dickens. I mean, Dickinson's a monster. But we'll see. It's still the tournament. It's still a lot of fun. It still gives me something to watch while I'm working until God knows what hour at night. So I'm happy.
And I think that's part of it, right? Is that, yes, it's still the tournament. Yes, any team can technically win. Let me ask you this, though. Let's say Zaga does win. Does anybody view this as a less of a win because of this?
I don't think you can. They went undefeated and they still won a 64-team tournament. Just because some of the teams that are typically in had down years shouldn't. Every team. Oral Roberts has the same chance to win a national title as Gonzaga. Why they didn't play a shorter schedule? They didn't play. I mean, Gonzaga was 25-0, 26-0, 23-0. Why would I begrudge them if they won a 64-team tournament? Sorry, 68-team tournament. No issue.
Okay, fair enough. And look, we've been saying this about every single sport, right? Is there an asterisk? Is there an asterisk? Is there an asterisk? You can make the claim, quite frankly, that it's harder to win in this environment than it would have been in a normal tournament because there is no – Gonzaga would have been the one team in the West, no doubt. And they would have been – sorry, go ahead.
Continue.
No, they would have been the one team in the West with hometown fans, right? Because I don't know where the regional was supposed to be, but you can be guaranteeing that it was on the West Coast because that's where they would have been. And had they been on the West Coast, they would have had hometown fans, and now they are stuck in Ncaa Fieldhouse, which in its own right is an interesting mix to this entire thing. So I'm very interested in seeing how the sight lines change and how production is done by various like TNT and TBS and CBS, because you're in a smaller environment. I mean, this is how it used to be done for the NIT, but it hasn't been done for the NCAA like this in 30 years.
I want to actually reverse the question you just literally came up with. Does Gonzaga have an asterisk if they win the title? They win the title, they're 37-0, and they're the first undefeated team since Indiana in 1976. Where do they fit in the pantheon of all-time great teams? Are they an all-time great team by doing this? We haven't had an undefeated team in 45 years.
Yeah, they have to be for that reason and that reason alone, right? Because they're an undefeated team. And when you're an undefeated, I mean, right now they're 26-0, so they'd have to win what? 1, 2,
they'd be 32-0.
6. Yeah, they'd be 32-0. They have to be ranked up there. Yeah, I mean, look, would they be? Does anybody consider? Let me ask you this: does anybody consider Indiana the top team, one of the top teams in NCAA history?
Yeah,
you think that they do?
I do. I don't think it's a Miami Dolphins thing where the Dolphins went 16-0, the only Super Bowl team to go undefeated, and nobody classifies them as one of the 2 or 3 greatest teams of all time. I mean, do you know anyone who's ever said that Miami team is one of the greatest?
No.
SB Nation actually came out a rating yesterday, 2 days ago, with the top 50 teams of all time. I believe Indiana was number 3, behind two of the UCLA teams. Indiana is thought of as that good. Now, I think a better perspective is your Syracuse team in 03 or my Maryland team in 02. I don't think they're as highly thought of as the 1990 UNLV team.
No.
I don't think they're as highly thought of as the Kentucky Anthony Davis team that lost to Wisconsin.
Yep.
Now, I think Maryland was a solid national championship team. I don't think Syracuse was as good, nothing personal, but Syracuse got on a roll at the right time.
Yep.
And we're led by a player who was better than anyone we had, obviously. But I think if you go undefeated, I mean, how many college teams have gone undefeated? UCLA, Indiana, University of San Francisco, and Indiana. That's your 4 of the last 70 years. That's it. San Francisco had Russell. UCLA had Kareem and Walton.
Yep.
And Indiana had a confluence of players, Kent Benson, Scott May. And supposedly the Indiana team of 1975, the year before, was better. But Scott May broke his arm and they lost in the final late against Michigan. And they actually beat Michigan in the final in 76. It was a revenge game. I think you have to put them up there. Plus, look, you're playing against much more athletic players in a much tougher environment than it was 50 years ago, 60 years ago. There's just more talented teams.
Well, that's true. And the tournament's definitely bigger than it was 50, 60 years ago. I mean, I get that. And is it better or worse, right? So you can make the claim that the Yankees had it easier because they had – I know I'm switching sports, but the Yankees had it easier because they only had to win one game to go to the World Series, right? They only had to be in that top spot in their division to go to the World Series. There was no championship series. I'm talking about the 50, 60, 70.
I understand.
Right? But you had to face the same 8 teams over and over and over again in order to get to that top spot. So the games themselves was not the talent was not as diluted as you can say it is today. That's an argument to be made. So is the 96 Yankees or 96 Mariners a better team than the 1941 Yankees? I don't know. The Mariners won 116 games and they didn't win a World Series.
1996. That was 2000, and it was 2000.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I'm looking at.
You should know that. Why am I quoting you on baseball and hockey?
I don't know.
What do I have you on the show for? These are your sports, not mine.
But that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at that's the same as you can make the same claim about Indiana as you do Gonzaga today. Is it more diluted because there are more teams?
I think in basketball, it's more talent. There's just more talent out there. That athleticism is beyond belief versus what it was 50 years ago. And it's why people consider, and look, I go back and forth because I think the 80s were the best basketball with Magic and Larry and Michael and Isaiah and Clyde and, but the athleticism now that you can see with people is just absolutely off the hook. It's absurd. And there's nothing comparable going back 30, 40 years to that. You can only compare it to me, you can only compare it to the era you're in. If Gonzaga goes 38-0, then they have to be rated one of the best teams of their era and hence one of the best teams of all time.
Okay. I can go. Does a player being the best player in your era constitute being the best player of all time?
It's hard. I mean, I think it depends on sport. Babe Ruth is still pretty much considered the greatest player of all time. I know Pazanski has a number 2 behind Willie Mays, But when the consensus of people say who is the greatest baseball player of all time, it's Babe Ruth. I don't think there's much argument about that. When you go to basketball or football, if it's basketball, the consensus for the first 50 years was Bill Russell.
Yep.
Other than me, I don't think anyone would have Bill Russell in their top 5 of all time at this point.
And your father.
And my father. But then it went to Michael Jordan. Sure. And I still consider Michael Jordan the best of all time. People consider now it's LeBron. Mm-hmm. It's now I don't think anyone's going to drop Michael Jordan below number 3. And I still have him number 1. And so it depends. It's hard because I remember we saw Michael Jordan play. We never saw Bill Russell play.
Sure.
So the comparison of ears is always difficult.
But I'm putting that in perspective to your team, right? So your team is the best team of your era. That doesn't necessarily make it. My question is, if a player is not necessarily the best player in the pantheon of best players of all time, if he dominates that era, why does it stand to be this different when a team could be the best team of that time? Why do they necessarily have to be one of the best teams? Oh, sorry. If they're not the best, if they are the best team of their era, why does it necessarily have to correlate that they are one of the best teams of all time?
Well, you can only compare to so you're saying why are the 27 Yankees, who are the best team of the year, why are they considered one of the best teams of all time?
No. So let's put it this way. So Jack Morris is probably one of the best pitchers of the 1980s. Okay. Yes. Jack Morris is a borderline Hall of Famer, certainly not one of the best pitchers of all time. But compared to his contemporaries at the time, he was one of the best pitchers of his, quote, 10-year, 12-year era. But he's certainly not one of the best pitchers of all time. I think anybody that knows anything about baseball will say that.
Yes.
Correlate that to teams. You are the best team of your era. That doesn't necessarily make you one of the best teams of all time.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So that's what I'm saying. So Gonzaga may be the best team of their era, but they may not be one of the best teams of all time.
You can't. But if they go 37-0, it's hard. Just like when you hear, I know he's now deceased, but when you heard Nick Bonacani say we are the greatest team of all time, when you're 17-0, we may not think they're the greatest team of all time, but they certainly have the right to think. They certainly have the right to think that.
Sure. Okay, that's fair. It's an unblemished record. You have no right to say any different. And spot on. And I'm very happy that
thank you. I don't hear that very often from you.
And I'm very happy you did not bring Tom Brady into this discussion. Thank you very much.
That was easy. That was too easy.
that was an easy.
Is that our transition to free agency?
Free agency and Shaq Barrett returning and all these contracts that are out of absolute whack and wondering
what is Bill Belichick doing?
So for those that have not understood what's gone on today, Bill Belichick has tried to reincarnate the Patriots of the 2000s without Tom Brady. So he basically said, I'm going to take everybody else and formulate the same team, except he's missing the most vital component, which is the quarterback. So he signed Jonnu Smith yesterday to a 5-year, $60 million contract. 5 years,
4-year, $50 million.
Then today he goes out in 3 years and 37.5 for Hunter Henry.
Where's your boy Mark? Where is he tonight?
Well, because I told him we'd be talking only NCAA tournament today. He actually did send me a text message earlier today. I will read this off because it was quite funny. Where is it? Mark Rubin. Here you go. First, he went through the Celtics, and then he said, the Pats just signed Hunter Henry. Oh my God, they now have the best tight end duo in football. I hope some of this creativity will rub off on Danny, being Danny Ainge. What he doesn't understand is they're not the same. Again, how many times can I say the exact same thing? They are not the same. The thing that the Patriots have is they still have the same guy throwing the ball. And while they're trying to make him better, since they just re-signed Cam Newton for another year, and short passes, is Cam Newton the accurate quarterback to make that offense go?
Yeah.
I don't see it working.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this and I say, okay, one side, Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, all jokes aside. Other side, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. No. One side, Randy Moss. Other side, Nelson Aguilar.
And Kendrick Bourne.
And Kendrick Bourne. No. Still no running backs of value. Because James White is now gone. He'll probably end up in Tampa like everyone else freaking does. Now, again, they'll be a little bit better because this is an improvement over last year where they had the worst wide receivers in the league. Dante Hightower comes back.
Yep. Patrick Sean comes back. Their defense comes back.
Yeah. Do I think they could be a playoff team if Newton is decent? Yeah, they could be. But do I look at them as any version of any kind of Super Bowl threat? No, not even close. And they're blowing the bank on what seems to me is blowing the bank on mediocrity. I'm blown away by what they're doing and not in a positive way.
The only way this makes sense to me, and there is a way and this makes sense, is if they mortgage draft picks and go up and get Justin Fields. Because they won't get to number 2. Because the Jets are not trading with the Patriots.
No.
That's not happening. So you can take Zach Wilson off the list. Mac Jones is not coming in and being a starter for that team when you have Cam Newton there. But Justin Fields might. And if you believe Justin Fields,
here's the ironic part of the 3 quarterbacks that you Trey Lance from North Dakota State, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. I think the only one that's remotely ready to start in the NFL is Mac Jones. I think Justin Fields needs a year. I don't think his I think as good as we saw him at his best against Clemson, but I don't think he's ready to start in the NFL this year. I don't think Trey Lance is ready to start in the NFL. I think they have higher ceilings, but I don't think they're ready to start. Okay. I really thought New England was going to get Fitzpatrick. I really did. I thought that would have been a really funny fit, to be honest.
He would have completed the whole thing. He would have completed the AFC East. That's the only team he hasn't been on. Yeah. But I will tell you, coming soon to the Seth and Sean Sports Radio NFL Fantasy League team, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Without any doubt, we are going to get him again this year because he will put up numbers. He is the best fantasy quarterback not to succeed in the NFL. Like, I don't know if that is a thing, but it's a thing. He's never made the playoffs.
Yeah, that is amazing, actually. But I look at that team; they're going to get the Redskins are going to get a wide receiver to help. I think they're going to end up either going after a wideout. Now, there's only 2 or 3 left at this point.
Galladay's the
Marvin
big
Jones was just Galladay's the big guy, and the rumor is he's either a Giant or a Dolphin. Both of which would make sense. The Giants just signed John Ross. That's not really moving the table very much. We need a big, strong guy who's a number 1. That's what we need. And the Dolphins need that as well. And the question is, I'm wondering what the offering is going to be. I think originally he wanted $20 million a year. I don't think that's going to be there. I think he's looking more like 16 to 17 a year with a little bit of a higher guarantee. And I hope it's the Giants. I do. They need a number 1 wide receiver, and he'll give them that because they don't need a short, fast guy. They need a tall, strong guy who can go across the middle, i.e. Plaxico, i.e. Akeem Nicks, from 10 years ago, from the last time they were relevant. We'll see. What do you think of your pickups?
Well, hold on. So let's understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is freaking funny money. I mean, what is going on? Some of these deals, and we say this every year, right? We say that you are spending and spending and spending and not going to get anywhere close to the production. that you are doing. So Andy Dalton signs a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Bears, right? Which means Trubinsky's gone.
Yep.
Which means Trubinsky's on. Tyrod Taylor signs a 1-year, up to $12.5 million a year with the Texans. If that doesn't spell no Deshaun Watson, I don't know what does. That is starter money if he's looking there. Tyrod Taylor is a good quarterback, but certainly not going to win stuff for you. Matt Ryan kept it, just restructured, cut his number down to 26.9. Just think about that. It was at 45. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is funny money. And some of these signings will be 1-year deals, like Trey Hendrickson.
We have company.
We have company?
Are you coming in to join us? Or are you just going to stand here?
By the way,
I'm going to put the video. I'm putting the video on her. She's now running.
You just signed John Ross too. And
2 years, $1 million. That's what I just said. $1 million guaranteed.
And Leonard Williams signed a 3-year, $63 million.
45 guaranteed.
Again, thank you very much for the 3rd round pick. I'll continually say that.
It is what it is. We had to re-sign him. We had no choice.
Agreed. First of all, reports are that the Bills made a run at Gronkowski. That would have been awesome. I would have loved that. And the Raiders have cut Rodney Hudson, who I think you will find to be on the Jets' #1 list right now.
Corey Lindsey's out of the picture.
Right.
So I mean,
what do you think of what question?
I don't.
Answer your question. The Carl Lawson deal I loved. I absolutely loved 3 years, $45 million. I think that's what you get at the starting 4-3. The last guy that we had that could play the end in a 4-3 was Sean Ellis. He didn't turn out too badly. The Corey Davis signing, he had 984 yards last year. He got a 3-year, $37 million approximate deal. You know what? You have him, you have Denzel Mims, and you have Jamison Crowder. It's not the worst. Seth, you've said this numerous times over the last year. The Jets had the worst wide receiver skill position players in the NFL. Yes. Those 3 guys make us not the worst. I wouldn't say we're the best, but we're mid-tier at this point. We're mid-tier.
You're bottom of the mid-tier, depending on what Mims is. We still don't know what he's going to be at.
Correct.
He's the wild card. Davis is Davis had a very good year last year.
He did.
But it was also, what's worrisome is he was mediocre for 4 years, and then in his 5th year, his contract year.
Correct. But you're not signing You're not signing into a Le'Veon Bell deal with guaranteed money for 5 years.
No, I had no problem with it. I actually, I'm assuming the Giants really think they're going to get Galladay. I think they would have paid more for Davis. Otherwise, I don't know. The Jared Davis move, it's a 1-year flyer. It's a 1-year flyer. And are you going to trade Mosley, or does he have no value because his contract's too big?
Are you asking me what I want to do, or do you think what's going to happen? I think
it's going to happen.
So I think they will trade Mosley. I think somebody will pay some freight for him, and you'll get a 3rd or 4th round pick for him, which is not what you want after spending $20 million on him up front. But again, not a Joe Douglas signing. So does Douglas really care about the money? No, Douglas believes, and rightfully so, you don't build championships through free agency. You just don't. You supplement them through free agency. The Jets have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, I think a 3rd and 2 fourths this year. If they can get another 3rd, well, that's the way you build championships. And look, the word championship and Jets in the same sentence is a misnomer at best.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
But at the same time, when's the last time, if you're a Jets fan, that you have confidence in your GM to do anything correct? And the Jets had the 2nd most money in free agency this year and have only spent on 2 guys, and 2 guys at the top of their position. and they didn't overspend on guys.
Wait a minute. Do you think Davis was one of the top three? Was the top guy at his, or because Robinson was captain, was franchised?
Correct. Look, if Robinson's there, they're spending $20 to $22 million on Allen Robinson. Like they would have gone to the bank for Robinson. Out of what was available, that's the market for a number one, number two wide receiver, $10, $11 million. That's what they spent. I don't have any problem with the Davis signing. I thought it was a little bit much, but you know what? You have the money, you got to spend the money at some point. And I think that when you get to the second round of cuts, which there will be second rounds of cuts, the Jets are going to be far more active, like a Rodney Hudson. That's a guy I think you'll see Joe Douglas all over. I think the Jets are also pretty cognizant of other teams that don't have cap room, and we'll see those in a couple of days, how those teams are going to manage. I think they might get a Chris Carson on a very low-end salary for a 1 year or a 2 year deal, because running backs just do not have that unless your name is Aaron Jones.
I was going to say Aaron Jones, on the other hand, did. And you are going to see a lot more voidable years and a lot more 1 year deals this year because the cap went down $10, $15, $20 million. And with the expectation that by 2022, it'll rise back up to what it was prior to COVID. So correct. I think there's some, I'm curious to see what the Giants do. I'm bummed they lost Tomlinson, but that is what it is. There's nothing they could do about that. The Nate Soldier deal was kind of, I have no real feel for. I don't know what he's restructured the deal for, so it's hard to tell. Williams, they were going to give him. He was going to get somewhere between. He was going to get 360, 480. He was going to get in that range anyway.
Yep.
So I'm fine with it. It is what it is. We made the deal. We got to live with the consequences, and he was excellent for us last year. He
was exactly what the Jets wanted when they picked him third overall. He was exactly. Look, the Jets would have been happy spending that money had he been doing that forever. They never would have traded him in the first place.
Yeah, so I don't know why he popped up this year, but he did. So
hey, for the same reason, so did Corey Davis. So there you go. So
I hope not.
Okay, next week we're doing our baseball preview.
Oh man, is it that time of year again?
It's that time of year again. We'll spend a half hour. We won't do a whole lot of it, and we'll recap the NCAA tournament. So a half hour on baseball, a half hour on NCAA.
We got to give one quick shout out. Rest in peace, the great one, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, one of the top 3 middleweights of all time. If you ever want to see a truly amazing boxing match that doesn't last 45 minutes, Hagler Hearns, 1985 at Caesars. Probably one of the 3 greatest fights of all time, and probably the first round, one of the 2 best rounds I've ever seen.
And to tell you the truth, ladies and gentlemen, I watched the entire fight during a first and second period intermission of the Islanders and Devils. So
how good was it?
So you can watch a boxing match in 20 minutes is what I'm basically getting at. It was one of those fights where they fought. They didn't just dance. And for all those that
they fought. Well, that was why when boxing was great.
It's not Floyd Mayweather. It's not Floyd Mayweather Jr. It is a boxing match. It's not a dance competition. So anyway, one last shout out before we leave. You know what? We say this often, but to Randy Zelia of Back Sports Page, he does a great job putting together all this stuff, helping us out. And next week we'll have a video for his hard work and new introduction. So Randy, we appreciate you, and we love what you're doing. And thanks so much. And we'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.